Footy and Frothy's back again to talk Supercoach today. I'm joined by Barney once more. How are you, Barn?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Yourself?
Very good, very good. Just looking forward to getting to Brisbane the next couple of weeks.
Bit of a reality check today.
Days.
The old man's golden lab passed away. So
Oh, no.
yeah,
Okay.
had a discussion with him earlier, but obviously just remember, don't take things for granted. Give your kids an extra cuddle tonight, and yeah.
Absolutely. Thoughts with him. Shoot him a message. I know he loved those dogs. So
Absolutely.
yeah, all the best to Wazza. And as you say, just enjoy the times with him while you can. And on that cheery note, Danaan, how are you? Welcome back for 2025. How are you heading into this season?
Oh, yeah, no, excited as always. Can't really go as bad as what I did last year. So as long as that improves, we're doing well.
I want to thank everyone who's checked out the extensive and somewhat controversial at time preview show. Yeah, we've endeared ourselves to Canberra fans, Newcastle fans, Warriors fans.
We still got one and two to come.
Yeah, there's a couple to still come. Also, because it's such a long form, the podcast will be back up in the next couple of days. The full mammoth effort. If you enjoy listening without having to look at our scones, that will be up and about as well. I guess we'll go. Well, just quickly, I want to make mention because we probably won't get much of a chance once we fall into the week to week. All the best to Christian Welsh, who medically retired today officially. 163 first grade games, including a premiership with Melbourne. Played a couple of years of Origin. Yeah, very good front rower in his time. I assume he's still be involved with player welfare. I think he's somewhere up and about with that.
Yeah, I think he had a role in the
the
commission as well, didn't he?
commission,
RLPA, yeah.
So I'm sure he'll be perfectly fine in whatever he chooses to do next. Very intelligent bloke. From all reports, he's welcome to join us here. He's got nothing else to do. The pay sucks, so there might be a beer in it for you. But all the best to him. Anything you want to touch on there, or should we crack on?
Yeah, sucks, hey. He's super good front rower, especially at his peak. He's apparently he's got a bit of a chronic back injury, and then he's gone back to preseason training, copped one hell of a head knock, and just went, yeah, I'm done. So unfortunate, but that's a professional athlete's life, and he's had a brilliant career. And as you said, wish him all the best.
The positive is we don't want front rowers continue to play and just be dribblers at 60 either, so hopefully it means a long and fruitful life ahead for him. As I said, all the best in his recovery. Supercoach, we'll get stuck into this now. We won't go over the basics or rehash any obvious stuff here. If you've made it this far into the show after so many years, you'd have an idea of Supercoach or how it all works. Biggest change this year, I'm interested to get your thoughts on, is the introduction of the flex player. Essentially, as I understand it, an 18th man that replaces the lowest scorer in your 17. You can captain him, but if he's the lowest scorer, you miss out on anything there. He doesn't get replaced by a vice captain. Alternatively, if your captain is the lowest scorer and gets the boot, the vice captain doesn't step in either. So I guess a little thing to keep an eye on in terms of that. Also, if the flex does nothing or leaves the game early, then you miss out again. Any thoughts, Danaan, on what this means, if it's going to change things drastically?
So it was in the Supercoach Big Bash?
Yes, it was, yeah.
I started it as just a top dollar player that I really wanted. And after a couple of rounds, realised it's more of that just flexibility position. I found myself just constantly swapping the players around. I know it's a different comp, so I don't know how it's going to work. But at the moment, I've done the complete opposite, and I've just got a bottom dollar in there. Just obviously wait till the final team list and to see how it is. But it's pretty much just that. It's going to be that extra gun that you try and squeeze in your side, and it's just depending on bench rotations and buys, etc. How you're going to be able to. Every team's going to work it. It almost is, I guess, like just having an extra interchange that if they score well enough, you get their points. Obviously, I don't see a lot of people using it like the VCC options and that. It just really does it potentially lower the chances now of looping, or does it make it easier?
Probably
that would be the biggest thing.
It probably just gives you an extra option.
Probably does complicate it a little bit more unless you decide that you want to use a player that's rocks and diamonds. You know, someone who can get you 21 week and 150 the week before, and in the first game of the week you throw darts against the wall and make him your vice captain. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
if he gets that 20, then you've still got options and flexibility to move players around and your captaincy around for the rest of the weekend. Or if he gets 150, then you can pull off that loop nice and early in the week. But yeah, as you said, during the cricket Supercoach, I found that the best way it worked for me was to use basically someone who was either a dual position or someone who played at the end of the round in that flex position, just to give you the opportunity to basically move the pieces around your team for the entirety of the weekend and not being locked into that that one position that, you know, if someone does fall over, then you can sort of bring in your bloke who you know is going to get you 50 or 60 points if one of your top stars sort of fall over earlier in the week. And also, if you do have a dual position in that flex and they do play later in the week, once again, it just gives you so much mobility with your bench to be able to pull
Can sub
players
someone
in and
else
out
out,
of the
yeah.
side and rearrange people that, you know, might have a tough matchup, or you get the late news and they're a late withdrawal during the week and that during the weekend and that kind of stuff. So I would imagine at the start of the year, it's basically I'm looking at someone I've put in there that's going to average 50 to begin with, and just that gives me an extra spot on my reserve bench to make money for the first 6 to 8 weeks of the year, and then you start looking at the play. Basically, by the end of the year, I think it'll be an extra fullback or an extra centre wing or an extra half for everyone, someone that can score 100 every week in the last 5-6 weeks of the year. And that could be a massive difference.
You mentioned the evolution with the Big Bash one. It's probably a good point. I think Big Bash was a little easier in that most players were dual as well. Just about
You
everyone.
don't really have trade restrictions.
No,
in
and
the
just think,
cricket
like, there
one.
wasn't many blokes that weren't either a keeper bat or like you'd play
Mhm.
Glenn Maxwell as a bowler, etc., etc. So it
Correct.
all became a little easier. I think people go looking for duels for the same reason in league. I feel like it's going to start as an attacking thing. I think many people will come out of the gates, including myself. First thought was, okay, 3 fullbacks, or at
Yep.
least someone as a goal kicker. And I think as the season goes on, it'll find its own trend where it'll go either you just have to keep up with the pack because 3 fullbacks are scoring 100 every week, or it will go the other way and it'll be more of
Safety net.
a safety net rather, which I guess they're saying it should be, but that's the way. I can see it coming out very aggressive and probably just tapering off a little once we get into the grind of the year, I should say.
Yep.
Any other thoughts, or should we get into, I guess, our basically going to shoot the shit and for each position, just see what's caught our eye. This is being recorded after the first couple of trial games. Obviously, we're 2 weeks
Vegas
away
trials,
from
yeah.
2 weeks away from full strength trials really coming. Apart from the Dragons, who look to have named everyone, and the Vegas teams are all pretty
The
much
Vegas teams will play everyone this week.
warmed up, revved up to go. Let's kick off. We're going to go from the back with the fullbacks. Barney, you've got a quick note of prices and the best averages at the moment. You want to touch on them first?
Sure. Yep. So basically, they've averaged out every player this year at about 9,800 per point is your average mark. So if you can find somebody sneaky that's not costing you about 10,000 a point on average, then that's sort of the break even mark you're looking for people that are overpriced or underpriced. We've got Teddy, who was the top scorer last year. He scored 2,068 points for the year. He's going to cost $920,000 to get you into your side, and he averaged 94 with 22 games. Tom Drabojevic was second with 1,610 points, average of 89.4. It's going to cost 875.6. And Latrell is the third highest price this year to get you into the team. He averaged 88.5 in 11 games last year, and it's going to cost 866,000. On averages, Teddy was the top average last year, as we mentioned. Drinkwater, on total points scored last year, Teddy was number 1. Drinkwater was number 2 with 1,888 points, and Tom was third. All the top 7 in the fullback position average 75 and over, so it's a pretty key position to pick your poison early.
Absolutely, and I guess pick your poison's a right term in that perhaps hard to go too wrong. I've seen people suggest any of those top 7. I think I've seen people make cases for Scott Drinkwater. It should be top pick. They're wrong, but they but what's caught your eye so far, Barn? Is there 2 or 3 you want to start? Well, 2 to start with, and we might just save that flex thing.
So what do we got? 26, a squad of 26. You got 2 players, 1 player and 1 reserve in the fullback position. Tane Tuapiki, I thought looked pretty good there again for the Warriors in the trial on the weekend. I'm not sure what kind of points, what kind of minutes he's going to get and where they can sort of position him in this side, but at 459 or say 460,000, someone to look at.
His name there again this week. Let me just check. And that's without Chance. So
Okay.
Either
Yeah,
Chance.
he is there.
Is he? Whereabouts? On the bench?
No, Tane.
Oh, yeah, Tane
They're playing
is.
the
Sorry.
Storm, yeah?
Yeah. No, it's I mean, Tuapiki is there, but Chance, Nickel Cockstag is neither centre nor fullback in that squad. Carry
on. Perham? Who have I put down? Who's Perham?
He is the former Canterbury, now at the Bulldogs fullback. I can't imagine he's going to be...
He's a dual position anyway at around the $300,000 mark. Ison at the Sharks, if Kennedy falls over during some point of the year and they bring in young Ison, you're looking at $293,000. Iongi's a massive one for Parramatta. Looks like he's got the starting position there. And at $232,500, I would imagine he's going to be in a whole heap of teams to start the year as a reserve fullback with one of the top 7 as your main fullback. Ramsey coming back for St. George is an interesting one. He's also a dual position centre wing fullback, 214,000. So not far off bottom dollar if you want to save a little bit of cash and maybe have him there if he is anywhere around the team. And Chevy Stewart from the Raiders looked half decent as well. I'm not sure he gets a run at the start of the year, but $232,500. Generally, you'll see most teams go with somebody in the top 10 and a bottom dollar price for their reserve fullback to start the season.
Is there, just quickly, Barn, I should have asked you both this before we started, is there a position to start the season that you will hammer down? Do you want to say, and obviously if you want to save it till we get there, that's fine as well. Is it fullbacks, or as you say, you want to go with 1 gun and 1 cheaper to start?
I'll be going with 1 gun and 1 cheaper to start. A lot of people do like to try and flesh out fully one position. I'm probably going to go within the halves and try and put some money into maybe 3 out of those 4 players. And then and keep basically the rest of my bench as people that hopefully are making me cash in that first 6 to 8 weeks, and then you start sort of making some moves there to strengthen your team. But I don't know, do you have any other ideas, Danaan or Daggy?
You go, Dan. Is there a position you like to really hammer in on to start the season? We might have lost him there. Look,
I think he's frozen.
He's frozen. He can jump back in. Fullback's one that I will be starting there, but the other, if I wasn't, it would be the halves, just because the pool's so shallow. I feel like everyone's going to end up with the same 6 or 7 halves across 2 positions. Dane, in your back, where are you focusing your money early?
Yeah, no, I'm actually going the fullbacks, hard on the fullbacks.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the halves later when we get to it, but yeah, I'm deciding to try the fullbacks this year.
And who specifically has caught your eye?
So I'll be looking at Trbojevic and Mitchell now that he's not suspended for that first game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's handy, isn't it, for South Sydney?
Yeah, it's very handy. That, to be honest, the fact he lost that, the All-Stars game counted towards that suspension kind of changed the plans.
Mm-hmm.
He was, my potential backup, seeing how they went, an easy player to move towards. But now that he's starting, I thought chips all in and see how it goes.
For me, I'm with you, Dan. I just like to have my fullbacks up now, but I'm not quite going. There is a school of thought which I would completely respect. Just set and forget Teddy, because it looks like he's out of the Origin calculations unless there's injuries, potentially even if there is, and he has to get his hands on the ball with his current Chooks lineup. But as we've said, that's not necessarily a good thing. I feel he's priced to the top, which, if you're setting and forgetting, cool, you move on. But otherwise, you might be able to snaffle him up a little bit in about 6 weeks when you need to shuffle some deck chairs. The 3, you mentioned Latrell, we're told he's fit as he can be, blah, blah, blah. Plus he kicks. He's actually someone I'm looking at right now as even a flex. And I think Souths have to have some improvement. What his best asset is, he's very, very often that last pass to Alex Johnson. He chimes in for those try involvements regularly. Plus he bakes 2 or 3 tackles every time he runs. That always helps. The other two, Gutho, I just feel like Dragons. He's 676. I think he's going to be the key to their attack, really. Him and Cook, who we'll get to later. The two halves will be there to get stuff onto him, and he'll be doing what he did at Paris, swooping along and getting the ball shoveled out towards wingers and Val out wide. So that should equal points to him. And they've actually, I know they are the Dragons, but they've got a pretty cosy draw to round 9 to make some money on 676. We know what the last 5 years for a lot of the season until he sort of burns out, he's in the top 3 all year. If I'm mistaken, that'd be sound right, wouldn't it, Danaan?
Yeah, he has his runs, and we've been on him before.
Mm.
And then if you don't get off that 1 week right, he'll pump out a 15.
Yeah, I know. My only my major concern is he is a year older and he does work very hard. So
that's it. He's got a very un-Supercoach friendly game.
Yeah.
So if he's not involved in the points, which is like most players, but he just, he does all those hard works that a lot of that stuff in defence you just don't get the points for. So really, if he's not part of that attack going forward, and it is a new look spine this year, he could lose money very quickly.
And lastly, Ryan Pappenhausen. Melbourne have a really great draw. They are Melbourne, so it helps. But they, apart from the round 2 bye, which probably bumps him down in a lot of people's estimations, if he's at his best, he'll make money on through 600 and change, 616, I think he is. That said, we do hope he just stays on the field as much as anything else. But they were the 3 that caught my eye. The only other thing I really have note compared to last year's Hammer loses his.
Out?
I'm with you. I can hear.
We still got you.
Yeah.
Tom's one that probably we haven't spoken about a lot.
Oh, just quickly, Hammer loses Jewel as well, so that's put me off him a little bit. But back to...
Well, I was going to mention Pappy. He's now my fullback guy. Now that Mitchell's not suspended, and because they've got the bye, as you said, their draw opens up after the Panthers. So round 4, you can pick him up: Dragons, Manly, Warriors, Dolphins. If he's fit and one of my top 2 don't start well, there's 200 plus saved, and in comes Pappy with that draw.
You want to mention Turbo Bun?
Yeah, absolutely. Apparently as fit as he's been for a long time. He's got first full preseason, I think, under his belt for a couple of years. We do know he can miss big chunks of the season, but I'm expecting Manly to be one of the stronger teams throughout a large part of the season, and it wouldn't surprise me if they started very well. So I know he's your top price, but if you're going to pin your flag on anyone, he's not the worst to pin your flag on. Fullback's pretty condensed at the moment. It seems very top heavy, and if you're starting to look sort of mid ranges, they're the guys you want to wait a month before you start even looking at realistically, see what they're putting out on the field.
Well, they are typical sort of barometers of their team, aren't they? If they're playing well, the fullbacks score well. Just quickly on ownership, and we'll move on. I won't labour this point too much. Ayongi 51%, Turbo and Ponga about both 30%, Latrell 27%. So it does make, and I know I made a Drinkwater crack earlier, but Drinkwater's Drinkwater, Edwards, Reece, Walsh. You're not going to go too far wrong with much of this. Gutho's only in 2%, which is why he caught my eye. Anyone else I want to mention? Not really. Once teams come out, we'll save the Fletcher Sharps talk till later.
The top 7, as you said, is basically pick your poison, and I don't think any of them are going to steer you wrong for too long. So.
No. Typically, if they do and you drop them, they'll score well the next week just to rub it in. CT Dub's interesting. It always is because I think it's a place a lot of people look to save money. So if you're willing to lay it on the line early, you might be able to create a point of difference there for yourself. I'll let you go first with this one, Dan. Are there CT Dub options that have caught your eye at this stage?
I've gone big on Garrick.
Okay.
to start the season. As you said with the Trebojevic, like with Manly, I just think they got a good start to the season. I think I can see him doing really well. So I'm risking it on Garrick as my big spend there, and then at the moment, I'm not really set on anyone else. It's just a number of guys around like the 400, and then another couple that are just at the bottom dollars, and then just wait till pretty much that final team list come out and see who slots in where. Outside of Garrick, I'm not really set on anyone. It's it is one of those positions that you can make money very quickly if you get those bottom dollar cheapies that everyone else jumps on. So you kind of need to be in on that. At the same time, we've had bottom dollar cheapies before that play rounds 1 and 2 and then don't get seen again till round 12, and you can be stuck with someone on the bench doing nothing for 10 weeks. So it is always risky doing that when they're bottom dollar, but it's part of the fun that we do this.
Exactly. Barn, have you got an approach to the CT dub?
Well, generally, from what I've seen, it's most people go. So you got 7 players that you have to flesh out in this position. So it's probably one of the trickiest spots to really balance in your squad. You could possibly spend a whole heap of money if you go hard in the centres, and to fill 7 spots, a lot of people generally go two top liners, 2 middle to low players, and then they basically fill their bench up, which is the 3 positions with bottom dollar players that they're hoping to make money real quick at the start of the season. And you get those right 3 or 4 blokes, you can make $1 million in the first 6 to 8 weeks of the season and really set up your super coach for the rest of the year. Top scorers, top prices this year: Val at 785, average of 80. Lomax 1660 points last year, average of 79 in 21 games, and Herbie Farnworth average 74.4. So they're your the top 3 prices in the centre position this year. There's quite a few options here. Goal kicking's a massive bonus with centre wing as well. If you can get 5 or 6 tries and they land every one of those goals, there's an extra 10 to 12 points for your team, for your player. Sorry, straight up. RTS at 553 now with Danaan out. Looks like he probably ends up on the wing, which could possibly be to his benefit, get him a little bit more opportunity, one-on-one opportunities out on the wing at $553,000.
Pretty much. I think he's going to be there anyway. I think it's pretty much confirmed. He's been training at wing, and they're hoping to get back the old
Tab's
RTS.
a very similar position, about 30k cheaper at 528,000. We know what he can do, and they get out. Basically, Manly's get out of jail free card is to kick either early for him to chase or kick for him to jump over the top of someone. So another one that's an option. Fayalongo, I'm not sure how he fits into this Melbourne system, but he's someone to be looking at if he does get some game time. Calm Pereira scores a whole heap of tries, but his consistency is one of the worst going around. But at 508, you probably see him in quite a few teams around there. So I've got quite a few others, but realistically, if you're looking at cheaper players, Robert Toya, if he gets a start at the Roosters, bottom dollar, 199,000. And I'm pretty keen on Jack Howarth at the Storm. I think he's going to be one of their real go-to players when they're in attacking positions, in that left centre position at $426,000. I think there's points and money to be made with him.
Great shout. I think that was actually a bold prediction there as well for me at one point. Just for me, apart from the ones you mentioned, look, I am looking at trying to start with someone like Lomax just to start off with a gun. But as you said, it might basically just because I don't know how Val fits just yet. That being said, where else was I looking? Did you mention Jack Bird?
Nope.
No. Well, he is priced 380. Apparently going to play 13. Most locks do tend to average to get to about that 550 price range. Should he play decent minutes? You're a bit more of a Bird expert than I have been. Hopefully, again, another one whose ankles remain pointing in the right direction all year. But the other one, Connor Tracy, he didn't start last year at fullback. I think they're in for a big scoring year. He's 587, and he's a dual, so you can always crowbar him back to your flex or to your fullback spots as well. He's caught my eye, and that real good draw, the more I looked at it, has me considering Stephen Crichton as well. Neither of them kick is when you're in that higher range, you sort of want the kicking on top. You mentioned Tua. and a watch on whichever McLean brother starts.
100%. Yeah, that's a big watch on which one of those gets a spot in the Penrith position. And the Roosters are a real interesting one. Billy Smith will be fighting up with Robert Toya there. 317. Just injuries have absolutely killed him. He probably should be a $500,000 player if he plays the majority of a season because he's pretty strong, got decent footwork. And how am I going to even tackle this? Mark
Takanese.
Itawase.
Mark is fine.
Mark at the Roosters, the winger. Played one game last year, scored 64 points, averaged at a price of 44 points per game. So if he can average somewhere around the mid-50s, there's $150,000 to be made with him if he's starting in the wing or centre for the Roosters.
Not so much for now, but one for maybe a black book for round after round 10, is it they're allowed, the 18-year-olds? Hamasi Makasini looks like he's going to get into that Tigers team as soon as they can get him in there. He might be a base level, sort of a mid-season flip, if you know what I mean. Bring him in
100%.
to cash in on someone else. Fletcher Sharp, he's priced as a star, but he has been named at 5'8".
Yeah.
I think he's a gun. They've got some work to do, Newcastle, but I thought he was an interesting POD. But he's also in the fullback role and just priced to his 17 tries in 12 games or whatever he pulled out last year. Extreme pod, and I suggest the reason why is because of the first round bye, but all three of those Titans centres, including Brimson, Kelly and Sammy, all average 60, and they are all owned by no one. So they may be an option to pick up if you want to go to, when we say pod, it's point of difference. If you're looking for different form, that was someone that half caught my eye just purely because of the lack of anyone else wanting a piece of him early on. But I suggest that round one bye is what skews that. 5'8" are up next. The shallowest I can remember almost this position.
Last year was pretty close.
Last year was close, and we might have even less now as I pull up the 5'8". They sort of speak for themselves, and I can understand why people would want to start early in this spot. Have at it. What are you doing here, Danaan? Help me out for a sec.
I've gone at the moment. I think Burden will be my top guy to start off with. I think for the last 3 years, I've just gone Dylan Brown straight away, but he's coming back off a partial ACL with Melbourne round 1, so giving him a miss. Looking at Munster, but then again, they've got the bye, so I can pick him up a bit later, depending on how Burden starts the season. So that's where I'm at the moment. And then I'm hoping Metcalf. I was on him early last year before he got injured, and he was showing good signs. That's where I am at the moment, but I'm not set on either of them.
The most interesting, interesting about Metcalf is he played 7 on Friday night in that trial.
So they'll most likely give him a duel
with Tamari.
They're still saying that they're still saying that they'll update positions prior to the start of the season.
Interesting, but he played 7, and Tamari played outside him, played really well too. He's the most owned 5'8" right now. Barn, I forgot to let you out to do the price thingo. And
hope you're not saying Martin played well. Metcalf
Martin played wide, I should say.
Martin looked horrible.
Metcalf ran the show is what I was getting at.
Top 3 prices this year, Jaden Campbell. He averaged 71.5 last year. He's going to cost you $700,000 and change to get him into your team. Marie Martin averaged 67.8 and is priced at $663,000. And Dylan Brown is the third highest price at he's averaged 66.6 last year. So he would be around I haven't written down his price, but it'd be around the 660.
Who was that you mentioned?
Mark.
Sorry.
Dylan Brown.
Brown is 651.
Top 3 point scorers last year. Dylan Brown was number 1 with just under 1,600 points in 24 games. Burton, 1,460 in 22 games. And Ben Hunt had 1,356 points with an average of 61 in 22 games.
Where are you starting, Barn?
It's real tricky again this year. And a lot of halves do have time out during the year with injury. So whether you pick your rock solid bloke who generally doesn't get injured all that often, or you get your X factor player who misses a few games constantly, but scores massive when they do come off. Generally, it's one big dollar player and a cheapie that people play in both halves positions, to be honest. If you're going to spend huge money, get 3 or 4 players in those 2 positions, you want one of them to be a jewel that you can slide in and out with buys, injuries, and the like between the halves. There's a whole heap of guys here that are sort of just under that mid or in and around that mid-range price that are jewels, and it's all going to depend on how they start the year, realistically. Walker, Wishart, Trindle, Luai, they're all sort of under that top dollar mark, but we're averaging, high 50s at the end of the season last year. And if they're running their own teams or they're put into if their team starts attacking very well from the start of the year, you could see a significant bump out of what they were doing at the back end of last year. They're all about, 150, 70 to 150k cheaper than the top guys. So if you were going to try and sort of maybe put a mid-ranger in there are a few that I'd be looking at. Mid to high 50s. Strange is somebody down at Canberra. He's going to be, if he plays 5'8" for that team, he's going to be crucial for them setting up points. Fogarty will get him around the field and the kicking game will supply some points. But when they're running the ball, he's going to be the one that 75% of the time is going to have to be setting up line breaks and try assists. So at 485,000, I think that's someone you can look at. You've already mentioned Metcalf. He's priced at 443, so another one that's very tantalising to look at. I think Fainu at $248,000 at the Tigers there. Whether as soon as he gets a go, I'll definitely be looking at bringing him into my team. I think he's a very good chance of making some money if he gets an extended run in that squad. So.
Yeah, you mentioned like running his own team. He interests me now only because he had 300s in consecutive games, the games he played halfback for Penrith. Of course, he has to now play for the Tigers. But it'll be his team. He'll have a lot. He'll be doing a lot of those in-play duties. So we'll see how that pans out. What else? I didn't have a lot else where to go because Munster, I understand people liking Munster. He's obviously a superstar, but does tend to get rest. He is coming off a major surgery. Will get rested a fair bit, and 1 out of 3 games just has a day off. A very good day off and do something great, but he won't score 100. Outside of that, maybe it is a position you can safely just play a Brown and a Burton and go with it. I'll just say that's it. That's where I'm going to finish up.
Probably get you a big part of the way through the season if you're able to crowbar those 2 in there.
Ownership-wise, I was interested to see more people owned Adam Dewey than Cody Walker and Tom Dearden.
Wow.
Bit of a price difference, but Dearden does seem a pod there at under 600k. Only 8%, 7% owned Cody Walker from his glory days of SuperCoach. What else can we say? It's again not a great. The more I'm thinking about this, the more maybe it's a safer spot just to start the season with at least one gun and even look for a fullback later.
And a mid-ranger, I think you're going to struggle to find a cheapie in the halves.
A worthwhile one,
honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no Lockie Galvin lurking that everyone just cashed in on, is there?
Yeah, there's no one that's really standing out at the bottom that's saying, pick me. I'm going to make you 300-400k over the next 12 weeks.
There's 1 or 2 guys in the halfback position that could possibly do that. But, still speculative, and we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Let's get there now. In fact, halfback is very much, a shallow pool, I think, where everyone's getting up with at least a top 3, maybe 4. Who's leading the averages here? The obvious?
Yeah, so Cleary's the highest priced player this year. Averaged 82.9 last year. Is going to cost you $811,500 to get him into your team. Where did we go next? Hughes was second. Averaged 82.3 and priced at $805,000 to get you his services. And Hines was the 3rd highest priced half in the 2025 season. Average of 75.1, and priced at $735,000. They're your three top prices. Hughes scored the most points last year. Brown was second. DCE was third. So these are the guys that, played over 20 games. Their averages weren't quite as high, but they were still mid 65 for Brown and DCE. And Hughes was, 82.5. He was brilliant. Dally M winner. So
You mentioned the brilliant Dally M winner. As it stands, 46% of people own Nathan Cleary, only 7% own Jerome Hughes, only 3% own DCE. So
Wow.
there's pods there in itself. The big
and they're good ones. They're big ones.
Well, here's my thing. I just thought it from this. Let me put this very simply for my simple brain. As you said,
3% of people not own a bloke who over 65. Well, okay.
Yeah. Jerome Hughes was the halfback of the year last year. The team's going to get better. They're getting
Looks that way.
Stefano coming in, etc., etc. The team's on the up. Nathan Cleary is in a team that, on paper, is going to get weak. I know some fucking stupid Penrith fans are going to say, "No, we're not. Look, we've won 4 in a row." Well, they just factually are.
He's lost his halves partner.
Yeah.
He's now got a lot of youth around him in those playmaking positions. Yeah.
They've lost a star front row, etc.
It could make him better in SuperCoach.
Absolutely,
realistically, because it makes him do more.
But if you're looking at the simple logic, A plus B equals D, it doesn't that just scream out to you as a pod opportunity?
100%, 7%. I can't believe Hughes is 7%.
And like
as somebody that's owned Hughes multiple times in drafts, I think his part that hurts the most in 7 is he's not a goal kicker.
100%,
he doesn't,
and that's exactly I reckon.
And
why
I think that's what it is. I think if he come out tomorrow and said he was goal kicking, that would be over 50% within 24 hours.
Yep, agree. The highest.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to like Cleary can hit the 180s because of goal kicking when they smash aside. He gets that extra 40 points, where Hughes sort of like maxes out at a 120, 130.
And it's the advantage Nico has. It's the same reason Nico's at nearly 20%.
Yeah.
If Dylan Brown kicked goals, he'd almost be a must-have.
100%.
You know who does kick goals for them is Mitch Moses.
Not anymore.
Of course not. No, of
Lomax
course
is kicking,
No, of course. Makes all the sense in the world now I think of it.
Moses come out and said he's a better kicker than I am, so he can have it.
He's right. And his leg's less likely to fall off not kicking as well.
Yes, correct.
So all those things going this way.
Problems.
What are you doing, Dana?
I'm actually staying clear of the 2 going to Vegas to start the season.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to actually touch too many of the Vegas guys. Most of them, I had a fair few last year, and they all seem to take 3 or 4 weeks to really hit their straps. So I'm hoping to be able to pick up a few Sharks, Panthers players after a couple of rounds.
Yeah, well, a lot of them went good in that round 1 and then struggled up until sort of 4 or 5.
In my mind,
and if that can happen with Cleary, he could, with his price, he could drop 150 grand very quickly.
At least close to 100, yeah.
There's no data around it, but I half think there's going to, in the next year or two, there'll come out a Vegas curse narrative that
I reckon someone will nail it, and then it'll just be that'll be the way that they do it from then on.
That'll be it.
But
yeah,
like we saw Brisbane and South's just no good after Vegas, but then I guess South Roosters did finish 3rd, but after a few years I wonder if there's going to be a storyline of these teams just it messing up their season.
What is it? It's a day and a bit to get there, and then the same to get back. It's got to take a toll.
100%.
Yeah, it was. I think only out of their next 4 games, I think the best that they done was only 2 wins, and I think it was only one of the sides who were able to manage another 2 wins by round 5. The rest of them only won. I think it was 1 in those next 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just so that's why I've not gone Nico or Cleary. I've gone Sandon Smith as the cheapie. If he plays, I think it's just money there to grab. And at the moment, and I don't know if I dropped out and we didn't mention him as 5'8", but Jerome Luai.
Yeah, do you want to tell us your Luai? I mentioned him very briefly in that he averaged 100 a few games that he played there. If you don't drop out again, do you want to tell us your Luai thoughts?
Yeah, so I've gone Luai to start in the halves. For that exact reason, he's going to be in control of the team. Yes, it's not going to be as good as the Panthers side that he was in charge of when Cleary wasn't playing, but I can see a lot of the attack running off him. And that's what I'm banking on at the moment, just to help me get to pretty much Nathan and Jerome later in the season.
You got a final thought here, Barn?
I'm still not really convinced on where I'm going to go here, to be honest. I do like Katoa at his price. I think there's money to be made there, and I think he's going to have. This will be probably his best season that we've seen out of him, coming in a bit more responsibility and structure in that side, especially with some of the forwards. If they can get them back on the field, that could make his life a little bit easier. I've got Cleary in there at the moment, but yeah, the Vegas does worry me. So not sure if I'll be sticking with that. But the guys I mentioned earlier that could possibly make some money in this position is you've got Dodd at Souths. Obviously, all the talk around him is not brilliant from the way he finished last year over in England. But
I've started with Dodd, at least where I am now, and I'm not at all comfortable with it. But it just has. Remember 2 years ago we were that excited about Ilias. Like, how can he go wrong? We're going to make all this money, and then we'll be sweet. And it has a similar feel.
I think he ended up making about 50 grand. But yeah,
There was a point where you could have sold him for maybe more, and then he had. And then as soon as everyone sold him, he got 100, and then he just disappeared. So I've got Nico, and I am not at all on good terms. I could end up losing my mind and just starting the season with DCE and Mitch Moses because I don't know where to go. I'm a little bit confused right now. So anyone wants to leave some comments below and present some clarity. Obviously, Nathan Cleary is the one that is there and kicks goals, and you get the best of both worlds because you'll have a defensive base, you'll have a few tackle busts if nothing else. But I can't do it every year. Is my concern.
I do have Sandon Smith at the moment in my hooking position.
So do I. As does many people.
As
with
Danaan
53%.
said, there should be money to be made in. If he's starting at 6, he really shouldn't stay anywhere near the price he's at the moment, which is what is he? $237,000. Yeah. So he's priced at an average of 25. So starting 6 should not be putting out 25 every week. And there's a bit of talk that Dodd may not even start the year, and it'll be Humphreys.
Right.
Coming in to play 7. Come from Manly. He's played a bit of hooker. Pretty big, strong fella. Very good in defence. So obviously, if he gets that starting position, all those people that are currently on Dodd will be jumping straight across to Humphreys. But he's priced at $305,000. So he's priced at about 28 a game. So
3:30 Saturday, they'll be the halves partner for the Bunnies there, playing 6 and 7 respectively. Second rowers is generally where a lot of other people go a bit harder, at least want 2 or 3 guns. This year, the whale in the bay is Tino, who is a genuine superstar, but has missed a year. He's priced at just over $500,000. At his best, he plays 80 minutes and probably gets to close to 750, if not higher.
Yes.
He has a round 1 bye, and I don't mind Dana's narrative of the fact we get to see 2 weeks of him, and then you can bring him in if you really want to. It makes a lot of sense. Do either of you want to and he's dual, so there's plenty of ticks bar. I almost think he'd be the most owned back rower if there wasn't for the round 1 bye. But that said, he's still owned by 35% of people. Barney.
Yeah, there's so many different ways that you can go about tackling this position. It's probably the hardest position to fill, that and centre wing in SuperCoach. You can go with, your one gun and then try to make money out of your mid-ranges and cheapies, fill your benches up with cheapies and a couple of mid-ranges to fill out that squad. A lot of people like to go 2 or 3 pretty big prices in here and know that you're going to be pushing out 65s out of them most games, which, 180, 200 points out of 2 or 3 players is a pretty good way to start your weekend if they're playing early. You need to find 6 players in this position. There's like 185 players to choose from in the back row position. A really good position for duels. You'll find a lot of people, obviously, a lot of players that have a dual, either a front row or a centre wing position that's, can create flexibility in your side, and even maybe fill that flex role as well. But
So Dylan Lucas, Bo Fermor, Ewan Aitken,
there's a million of them.
et
There's
cetera,
about
et cetera.
45 of them, I think.
I've got 2 of them in my centres already.
Yeah.
Just to start the season. There's so many. It's one of those positions where I think everyone's going to want like your Crichton, Katoa, etc. to start with, but you just can't afford to spend 3-4 million there.
Exactly.
You know what you're going to get from week 1, but you need to just.
You need
it almost feels like it's.
Go on.
Yeah, go. Oh, I was just going to say it's almost one of those positions that really can make or break your season, because you do need to try and find somebody that's going to make you a few 100,000 or a couple of players that are. But if you pick the wrong one, geez, they can hurt you very quickly.
Going to say exactly the same thing. You need at least 2, possibly the 3 players on your bench under the $300,000 mark, and making money for you to really generate the cash that you need to end up with a fullback row by the end of the season. The top 3 prices this year are going to be Crichton at 758,000, played 20 games, average 77.5. David Fafita, 750K, average 76.5. And Isaiah Yeo, $727,000, average 74.3. So
The incredible thing
you're going to
about
want at least
Yeo
one
is,
of these guys that are averaging 70 plus.
if you look at
And
the
it's
top,
crazy with Yo
you're about to say,
as
I'm going to
well,
say, go on.
because you were going to say the same thing. Something similar.
If you
about Yo?
look
Like,
at the top 7, Crichton, Fafita, Katoa, Hudson Young, Nakura, Olakau'atu, they're try scorers. Yo does what he does purely off a work base.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Which is incredible. Is that I assume that's where you're
headed? He's almost the safest one, because you just know if you've got him, that's what he's going to score. That's what he's going to average for the rest of the season. And then you can kind of hope that one of the others, well, they're all going to take turns of not scoring tries, try and pick them up on when they're at rock bottom, and then wait for the next one to do the same thing.
And you know the equivalent, who we didn't even mention, is Dylan Edwards. Same thing, that he will just produce a number every week, and you know you're going to get, and without the flash, he'll have some flash, but without all the fireworks all year, he'll just churn you out at least 70 or 80 every game.
And the week he scores a try and sets one up, he's getting 100.
Yeah.
He was a bit inflated with the goal kicking, though. That's my only worry to start the season.
All that being said,
if Cleary was out, he's a smart grab if he was out for a long period of time again.
Very true. And yeah, without Lua, he could almost end up at 6 there. Edwards as we go on.
There's anyone in? Well, you probably want one in the top 15. They're all gold in the top 15 of this position, averaging sort of 65 and above. Anyone in the top 70 or 80 players, you could make a case for and fill 2 or 3 positions in there. You want to be looking at draws, obviously any changes in and around the way the teams may be attacking. So I've really sort of left that talk out of it, to be honest, and I'm looking at the guys I'm going to mention are 400 or below. Felice Kafusi, $411,000. Looks like he's going to move into the front row, so that may just add his base up a little bit. He's generally not a big try scorer or line breaker, even when he was in the back row. So a little bit extra onto his base with the dual position at the moment, which may change. But you would imagine that there's a few extra dollars to be made there. Mariota at the Raiders is another one who's a dual position. He averages of 1 point a minute and only played an average of 30 minutes last year. So if they can, add another 10 or 15 minutes to that, there's an extra $150,000 to be made if he can play 6 or 7 weeks and push out half a game. Jazz Tavanga really interests me at Manly.
mainly he might play hooker
from the Warriors. Average 32 minutes, 1.2 points per minute last season. You bump that up to 50 minutes, you've got a 60-plus point maker week in, week out. And a lot of it's base, can break tackles. He's definitely caught my interest. A lot of guys in the Roosters there, the Va'a brothers and White at a lower price. All depends on who's going to be playing minutes for them in the front row there. Nathaniel White, 35 minutes, $367K. Another one who's got dual position and averages 1.1 points a minute. So extra minutes should suggest that he should get a lot of extra points. So anyone under $300,000, you have to look at 2 or 3 times, because they're the guys that are going to make you that 150, 200 grand to start the season.
It's a lovely spot for draft because you don't have to panic too much. You can pick someone up
100%.
in round 42 and still be on good terms with yourself. Sia Wong's another one of those Roosters back rowers. Once we see how it pans out, 2 years ago he was going to be a rock star. We didn't really see a lot of him last year, and I'm interested to see how it plays out with the young para rotation. If Guymer gets minutes, if there's another one with half a spruik, is it Price or Pryke? Someone they've just re-signed that was in contention for a starting spot that was a base player. Anyway, it'll come to me.
Yeah. Well, Hopgood, most likely Hopgood's going to come back in.
Yeah.
And I think Tuolagi is going to be
I think Lane's in doubt.
Yeah. So Kelma Tuolagi is actually one of the ones I do have in my 2RF at the moment because of that. I think he's going to hold on to that starting spot. But pretty much just what Barney said. This is one of those ones, a bit like the CTW, where you're just going to be waiting till team lists, see who gets selected that's 350 or under, and how secure is their job. Because if you can see them holding their spot for 6 weeks and they're not extremely, not a lazy player as such, they're only going to make money.
The couple of focus for me, Tom Gilbert. Now he's back, missed all last year, but is an absolute workhorse. He's 462. He if he plays big minutes, he'll be making money this year. Isaiah Papali'i, look, we didn't see much out of him the other day, but once he gets a combination with Cleary going, I think he can make money on 585.
Does he start?
Yeah, I think so. That's what we're told. Because Garner will go back to the bench. And 2 with...
Sorensen will go back to the bench.
Sorry, Sorensen will.
Carter might not be in this squad.
And I do like... I'm just naming names here, but this is both at 3%. I'm just looking for ones down in the market. Fainu averaged 57 last year. He is a try scorer.
Yes.
Samuela, that is. And I think Alex Seyfarth, now he's hit that sort of 60-plus game first grade career. I think he can pull out some very good base numbers. And they'll both be chasing Luai grubbers. So I think we can just see you throw an extra try in once a month or once a fortnight. That helps out. Jaden Sewer, 1% of people have spent money elsewhere. He's priced high, but that is a fantastic pod. If you're happy to spend money, he will be fine. And Ewan Aitken's owned by 0% of people, and he is a gun. And going into that South team, I think has to play big minutes too. And Wayne trusts him.
Yeah, if he gets a back row starting spot, he's probably someone that really should be in a lot more sides.
But as you say, we could name all 75 and make a case for them all. Front row. Correct. And Danaan, you make a good point most years that you just are happy to find 2 that I just said the same word 4 times, and I just must have a scratched brain. You're happy to spend just under $500,000 and find 2 blokes that average 45, just 55, and they do ya. Is that still the way you look at this?
Well, at the moment, I've got 3 that I'd say are 95% locked in. Aaron Clark, Spencer Leniu, and Amon from the Bulldogs, which are all under 400.
Yeah.
And which I think all are going to make me money. And I've actually spent over $500,000 for the first time in a while. I've gone Tyrone May at the Tigers.
Okay.
I think
he's the most owned, 47% of people. Incredibly, 43% own Corey Horse.
Yeah, I just don't see you guys picking him to not play him big minutes.
See, I don't know. I can't see them. They've just got a bloke. They're a young prop. I can't see them wanting to play him more than 60 every week, which is enough. I think they start softly. You got a new front rower in. He's priced. I think he potentially might even lose slightly, not through lack of ability, because I think he's a very good player. But I think they protect him a little bit instead of trying to burn him out. Maybe he's just another Haas and I'm wrong, but I think off that price he comes down a little bit, which might make him more enticing. But I think, yeah, they ease him into it because they've still got Twile, they've still got a rotation there they can lean on more than what they do at Roosters. But I could be wrong. Maybe he just comes out and they just run him into the ground. Terrell, maybe your thoughts, Barn?
Yeah, I wouldn't suggest he'd be getting more than 55 to 60 minutes to start the season. One of his big things is how explosive he is. And I think if you're pushing him out to 70, 80 minutes, he probably loses a bit of that. You get half an hour of just sort of up and down on the spot. Whereas if you do give him that 20-minute rest during probably 10 minutes each side of half time, he really has that impact, stays with him a little bit longer during the minutes that he's on the field. So looks like a fantastic player in the mould of Jared, really. I'm surprised they let him go. Big, strong boy. Probably even, he's got a bit more leg speed than Jared did. He's a little bit quicker across the park, and there's not going to be many blokes that are going to manhandle him, that's for sure. So, yeah, definitely someone that I'd be very, very tempted to be putting in as one of my better front rowers to lock in that position, because he has to lead that Tigers pack going into this season.
I'm interested to see who the Roosters they must have some good kids to let him go. So there's a cheapie looming somewhere, a VAR or similar, that we might be able to get at a cheap price to fill a bench spot. Pasifiki Tonga has been doing good things at the Dragons. I'm led to believe 198k as well.
A lot of it's junior grade stuff though, so we've yet to really see him take on the first graders. Probably a bit more of a sit and watch. Fanua Blake's your top price this year, $706,500, average 72. Haas 669.2, which is probably a little bit lower than he started the last couple of years, so might be enticing to start the year with an average of 68. And Barnett with an average of 67.5. It's going to cost you around $660,000. So they're your top three prices. Generally, there's always two cheapies in this position. You very rarely see anyone go more than one gun and then maybe a mid-ranger. Some people like to stretch it out to two, but I think you probably, as Danaan points out, you're probably wasting a position where you can make some money in the front row. Big one for mine now. Obviously, you mentioned Welsh at the top of the show, leaving that squad. You now have Lazarus Valepu, massive unit coming into that role as well with Stefano and Nelson Asofa Solomona. Don't be surprised if you start seeing him run out for 25 minutes in the middle there, and at near bottom dollar, there's probably some money to be made out of that guy.
How does Stefano not improve this year? He sandbagged last year.
I don't see how he can.
And the year before, he was averaging 60 plus.
He did go pretty well up until sort of halfway during the year.
Until he just threw these toys out. He's now going to go play for Bellamy. He has to improve. I think he ends up in the top three for the year.
Bellamy doesn't like offloaders, though. He might improve his game, but does he improve SuperCoach wise?
That's true.
Okay.
Fair shout. Fair shout.
Yeah, 100% his game improves, but does it actually help his score?
Yeah.
He did start letting Blore do it a bit more offloading towards the end of last year.
Yeah, but Blore's
Not
second rower. He let his second rowers start spreading the ball a bit more, but not his props.
Correct.
His props are get in,
That's
get
fair.
me 15 metres and a quick play the ball.
Good commentary. I hadn't considered that. One I'm interested to hear thoughts on Joe Offengawe, another one that had averaged a fair price before he's been benched the last couple of years. Does he start for them as well? And he is a very good workhorse at his best. Still younger than we thought, as we talked about on the preview show. If he's taking over the RCG role, 430 looks a good price to me.
I think he does start. And he could definitely be somebody that ends up coming into the calculations. I don't see him being one of those guys, though, that if you don't start with him, he's going to cost you 200 to jump on and be a long-season keeper. No. So, he's one of those guys, it's almost you've got to risk it at the start. Otherwise, you're already going to be behind it. And
Yeah.
I don't know if I can, just depending on how the rest of the team works, I don't know if I'll be able to do that.
We have a coach. We have no idea how his forward setup could even look or would even look as well.
And that's pretty much why I've only got. I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that Kelmer will be starting in the second row, and that's pretty much why he's the only eel I've got in my side.
Okay. You've succeeded in just talking me out of everything there, Dana. Thank you. What else, Barney? Anyone else really caught your eye? Or
Yeah, we mentioned before they got the VAR brothers in this position. If they get a start, definitely someone that'll be in a lot of teams. Benjamin Teakura at the Broncos. Probably not someone that you're going to start the season with, but he averaged 1.4 points per minute when he did play. I know that was probably a bit bumped up with a couple of tries where he just barged over the top of people, but he seems like he's going to be able to keep doing that anyway. So good luck stopping him 5 or 10 meters out.
and Ben Hunt's a crash play man.
Yeah, average 30.
More than they
He's priced at like 22 points. Average 30 when he did play. If he gets half an hour a game of a stretch of 4 or 5 games, he could make some really good coin real quick.
All of those Broncos back rowers sort of interest me, but I just don't know how they set up yet. That's all.
Corey Horsburgh, whether he's in that. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Hetherington.
Yeah.
Is he going to be starting?
Well, that's what no one seems to have confirmed much. That's what I thought, and then there was some talk
see
around.
Anything in the trials? The lineups?
Nothing I can take away. Let's bring it up now.
He is at lock, but Carrigan's not playing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Michael Molo at the Dragons. If Francis does one out and he's not staying there, he probably takes Francis' spot, which was 40 to 50 minutes a game. Averages a point a minute, it's priced at 27, roughly an average of 27 with 291. So, if he's getting 40 to 50 minutes a game, you should see that get push up to 500k or thereabouts.
Teakura starting prop, Gazowski, and apparently he's been all the rage for Madge, is starting back row with Teakura, Kobe Hetherington at 13. There had been plenty of talk around Carrigan moving to the middle at some point, so maybe that is somewhat of an indicator. Yeah.
If Corey Horsburgh, if Corey Horsburgh's mended his bridges with Ricky Stewart, he's a bloke you can get 60 minutes out of at an average of 55 or so.
Well, he's the most owned after Terrell at the moment, which
355k. Yeah. So that's priced at 32 points thereabouts a game. And if he's going to average 55 to 60, there's a money maker there. But we know what Ricky's like. He's pretty fickle. I don't know what he said to him and why he was pushed out of that team, whether it was a personality thing or he just wasn't training properly. But if he's starting at the start of the year, he'll be in a whole heap of teams. Royce Hunt, another one at the Tigers. I'd expect him to probably get maybe 10 or 15 minutes more than what he's getting was getting at the Sharks. So if that does happen and he's playing 35 to 40 minutes, his price should jump up to close to 400,000.
Yeah, with Twile and I doubt Clemmer even makes a team. For Nuapole in that rotation, I'm just interested to see how that plans out. But you're right, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all there, Bun. Hooker. Let's take this home. Hooker is the last position we need to discuss. A little bit pick your poison because there are 5 guns here. First of all, Sanders Smith, we've discussed, most owned, sort of gets to, and here we go. I've remembered I'm outside. The most owned, for obvious reasons, starting at 6 for the Chooks. And potentially from job security, because I imagine just goes back to 14 once everyone's fit. But who was top 3 last year, Barn? And what say you about this spot?
Well, your top 3 prices this year were obviously Harry Grant, 691,000, 20 games, average 70.7. Cook is going to cost you 662,000 with an average of 67.7. And Little is the 3rd highest priced player this year. 22 games of an average of 65.5. I would imagine that probably takes a little bit of a hit. I can sort of see Cook maybe playing 20 to half an hour in hooker and then maybe move into that back row position, which he played a bit of
I could see
last
Little
year.
playing that small back row as well. Tough little nugget.
Yeah. I just think Cook would probably be. They'd probably go with Cook first, just through his experience, being able to guide the halves a little bit out of that 13,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
and maybe even take a bit of the pressure off those guys and tell them where they need to be and where we need to attack. So I dare say you're going to see Cook and Gutherson basically running a lot of the attack for this Dragons team.
Absolutely, and for that reason, I've got Cook as my starting hooker. I'm a bit scared about being chipped in on two Dragons players. That's my concern.
Yes, correct.
With where they're at, but they're the two because their halves jobs will be to get the ball to one or both of them essentially.
Yep.
So that's where I'm at with Sand and Smith because I'm a little bit betwixt and between. I love Appy, and I'm not really that Tigers heavy. Sometimes I get scared about being Tigers heavy.
The two top point scorers last year out of the hooker position, apart from Harry and those three that I mentioned. The next two were McGuinness and Appy.
Mm.
They both played.
Robson. No, sorry, I tell a lie. You're right. Carry on.
Appy averaged 62.5 in 22 games, and McGuinness averaged 57.5 in 23 games. So, if you hang on to them for a big chunk of the season, you should see some good points coming out of those guys. And Max Plath is interesting too. Just how many minutes he gets in that Dolphins setup will be interesting, but he averaged 63 as well.
I love Max Plath. I think he does a mountain of work. I hope he starts
He's an
somewhere.
animal.
But obviously, Jerry Marshall King's about to get 60 minutes back off him at least.
Yeah.
So that's my concern. I think he loses money, but unless he plays lock, he could play lock and do just as good a job.
You could start with anyone in the top 13. They all average 50 plus.
Yeah.
And, some of those guys down towards, your 10th, 11th, 12th position are a possibility of making some money as well. I don't think any of the top sort of 3 or 4 are going to make you a whole heap of money, but if you're banking on points, they're the way to go.
What have you made of the hooker role, Dana?
I've gone cheap at the moment. Again, for that same reason, I think it's just one of those positions. Is it Mamazelis?
Mm-hmm.
South, yeah, with Cook gone. He's 300k. I think he can comfortably
play an hour.
Yeah, exactly. And I lied earlier. I do have 2 eels, not just the one. I've got hands in there at the moment.
Okay.
Because, again, if Lussick's on the bench, he'll be straight out, though. That was the biggest issue, and I think why hands are still at that price is because of Arthur and the way Barrett had the hookers pretty much playing almost only 40 minutes each. So if Rolls, who comes from the Storm, 150k, not within 2-3 weeks, but over a 7, 8, 9 week period, should be able to definitely increase his price of 350.
Well, they're both the same player, realistically, in that position for this Parramatta team. One's priced at 350, the other one's priced at 345. So it all comes down to who's going to get the minutes, obviously, at the start of the season, of which one of those guys you're going to go with, if you were to go with one of them. Owen Paddy for Canberra. He looked like the best hooking option that they've had there for years in that trial against the Sharks. I know they were playing the kids, but he looked very, very switched on, organised, good passing game. And if he slots into that hooking role at any time during the year, he'll be snapped up by a whole heap of super coaches. You could say the same probably about Healy's son that played for the Warriors. He's not a small boy. He looked crisp when he was out there in that trial for the Warriors.
What about the other, that Sharks hooker? Played a few minutes as well. Beryl, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to play. Brayley will play 80 minutes unless he's got a niggle. He might get a few games in and around Origin, or if there is a niggle where he gets rested. But yeah, they've been pretty consistent playing Brayley for 80 minutes for the last 2 years. So I'm not sure Beryl really gets a look in there, unfortunately.
And McGuinness generally shuffles in if something does go wrong, doesn't he? So
Correct. Yes. Brisbane's another one like Parramatta, still all sort of up in the air at the moment. You got Moser at 312,000 and Corey Pakes at 232,000. Pakes you could probably even take if he's only getting half an hour at 232. Money there to be made. Talk is Moses starting hooker at $312,000 is gold realistically if you're looking for a cheap backup option in your hooking position.
Just while we're on that, while we've been online, Blake Moser in danger of missing opening NRL rounds after shoulder injury, trying rehab instead of surgery.
Right. Okay. Well, that's
and
not
also
great.
Tyson Smoothie has also agreed to a 3-year.
Yeah.
So that really bumps up Corey Pakes realistically.
Well, as I said, Smoothie's
probably now
this
looking
week,
at 30 to 40 minutes.
But Walters is starting at 6 as well. Rehab. That never seems to end up. It just always
Generally
seems to just
doesn't end
prolongs
well, no.
the problem, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else caught your eye?
Yeah, as you said, Appy's average is 62.5. You know what he brings week in, week out. He could be a very safe bet to start the year.
Will he goal kick?
Not sure.
That is a good question. Does Adam Dewey goal kick? It'll be between one of them.
Things that run through my head when I'm looking at guys.
You're right,
well
because
last year.
I actually don't know the answer to that because Dewey did 2 years ago and Appy did last year, and
we'll know in the trials. Hopefully,
we'll know week 2 of the trials, of course.
Yeah.
Is there someone? No, that's the
obviously.
Of the
I've got sharks everywhere. Blake Brayley for mine will be my starting hooker at the start of the year. Fanua Blake really should add to the platform. That the Sharks have been okay through the middle, and we've been screaming out for years for him to have that big impactful front rower to come on. If he's playing 60 minutes, getting fast play the balls for Blake Brayley. There's a stat going around last year that every time he had more than 6 runs in a game, they won every single game. So I can imagine if they're getting him on the front foot and he starts darting out a dummy half, as well as he loves to crash balls. He does set up tries for his forwards in and around the post. He's got really good service and he tackles his absolute backside out. So he'll be my starting hooker to start the year.
Beautiful. As I said, I'm leaning into Cook, but I might revisit this position more. I've thought about this. Percentage-wise, both under 3% are Wade Egan and Reed Marnie, two blokes that love to stick their head where most people won't stick their people. Their base is going to be high. If Wade Egan's biggest problem is he spends a lot of time having to fetch that head. So
concussed or injured.
If he could play, if we knew you were getting
I thought
a
I
full
was
season
on a good thing last year. Jeez, I thought I was on a good thing with the way he started.
How well did he start?
If he brings that form, and same as Marshall King, who's we haven't mentioned, but.
And then Robson's solid but he just doesn't have that edge of flair that you'd like. As you mentioned, your Jeremy Marshall Kings have, your Cooks and your Grants. And if he could just, create that 1 or 2 more line breaks a game, he'd be, top echelon of SuperCoach. But
do you think you finish the season with Hunt at hooker?
Yes.
Once obviously Mann that's back, and
more than likely.
Yeah, if he ends at hooker and because he's available there, isn't he?
Yes.
Have they confirmed that?
He will
not
be.
in SuperCoach.
No,
I think
he's
so.
6 and 7. He's 6 and 7.
But if he does, as we talked about with Cook, sort of, and they start putting him in the middle to play as a second sort of 5'8" for 20 or 30 minutes a game, as well as playing half an hour in the hooking position, he's pretty strong defensively, and there's try assists and line break assists to come off the back of it as well. So
absolutely. Very good. That's covered off our front to back, back to front. Look at this. Do you just want to run through an idea of your team, or do you just want to throw out a couple of names that you're keenest on at this stage of the game, and leave it till we do a top up after the trials?
What are you doing with your flex?
Well, I think we've all got Sandon Smith in there. I think he's just a lay down misère to make money. I think you get probably at least 200K out of him, as long as he stays fit for the first 6 or 8 weeks of the year. I'm locking in Yo this year. I haven't done it forever, and I've kicked myself every single year. as long as nothing out of the ordinary happens to Isaiah, he'll be locked into my back row position as probably my number one for a big part of the year.
And what you say about Yo can be translated to Pat Carrigan fairly easily as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Not
What are you
really
guys
mention him.
thinking you're going to do with the flex position to start?
Latrell's there at the moment for me. I'm gonna triple fullback because I can't help myself, and we'll just see how that pans out. But I think if you are going to do it, you probably should consider someone with maybe a dual, and then you've got a little bit of flexibility. Maybe
I've started with Connor Watson. If the flex position wasn't there, I probably wouldn't have him in my team at the moment.
Okay.
But the fact that I can use him as a reserve second rower or a starting hooker if something goes wrong in those two positions, he's probably going to average 60 to 5. That's what he was sort of pushing out at the back end of last year. And, anyone that has a game of 45, he's going to take their spot in your team. So,
what do you thought, Danaan?
There. I'm still on the edge whether I go sort of like yourself with the top dollar fullback, or one of those safe mids that are going to get me 60, or if I end up just having almost like selecting my team as per normal, and then just putting a cheapie there I'm not so much worried in terms of their point scoring, someone that I think is going to make a lot of money, like in Iongi from Parramatta. Someone that is bottom dollar that we know is starting and should make 400 by Origin.
Yeah.
Well, I just sort of looked at it.
I'm stuck between those three.
The dual makes a lot of sense.
I looked at it as
the dual does.
The dual, the flexibility around changes, but that also lets me now. I have 2 players on my reserve bench that are over $400,000. Everyone else there is, in my mind, going to make me 100 to 150 grand to start the year.
Yeah.
So if you can do that with 8 players and make $1 million in the first 6 weeks of the year, don't get me wrong, 3 of them, I'll get at least 3 of them wrong. Could be 6 of them, but at the moment, it gives me that extra spot to speculate on a young young fella. So.
And I think it's one word of advice we all agree on: don't have cash just floating about in your bench unless it's making you money. Don't just have those.
Yeah, 100%.
It's got to be in a position like a
don't
half
have 8 $400,000 players.
It needs to be someone that's averaging 60 if you're going to sit them on your bench, or 50 to 60.
Yeah. Any other questions from you boys before we wrap this up?
No, that's
from
it.
me.
Cool.
Let's hopefully see a few things on the weekend that we can get excited about moving forward.
Definitely. Now, what are we going to do? We're going to re-adjourn after round 2 of the trials, do you think, or?
Yeah, lead into Magic Round. To Vegas.
Let's get all the trials out of the way before we do another show, and then we'll look at our weekly options after that.
We can do half a show of a quick wrap up of the trials and the 2 games in Vegas.
Preview sounds very good to me. If we get some more insight, we will get that out. Check out showstips.net where this show can be found as well. And apart from that, thank you, boys. Good luck this SuperCoach season. Nice jersey, Barn.
Thank you, mate. And yeah, we'll make an effort to get some posts up if there is some information floating around.
So, definitely try and get a bit more content heavy through our socials this season. Take care, everyone. Of course, check out SuperCoach. Our codes actually will be on our Facebook page. I'll set up a reminder for them, and Instagram in the coming days. You can join our leagues and take us on. Check out PCTC Tipping Comps. Their Rugby League comp is live now. Search for them on Facebook. You can take us on head-to-head into cash or free tipping. And there's also racing to be done this autumn carnival. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Barn. Thank you, Danaan. We will talk to everyone very soon.